Hello and welcome to VCCircle podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Rai, and we will be in conversation with Mr. Sunil Goyal, who is the founder of early-stage venture capital firm YourNests. YourNests has invested in startups such as Unifor, Orbo.ai, Lavelle Networks, among others. YourNests is in the process of raising its second fund, and it recently launched its fast-track funding program called SOAR. Mr. Sunil Goyal, thank you for joining us and a warm welcome to you.
Pleasure to be with you today for this podcast.
Thank you so much. So before we talk about SOAR and your second fund, I wanted to begin by asking you as to what YourNest's response was to the lockdown that was imposed to contain the coronavirus pandemic, and what was some specific advice you gave to your portfolio companies?
Much has been talked about on this one. To say we bucketed our response in three stages. The first one was around a very simple message: do not panic.
All right.
And just safeguard your efficiency by making work from home as efficient and as good as was earlier. So that was one simple starting message. And then the second stage was the hard-hitting message, which every investor would have given to their startups, was about conserving cash and generating cash or funds from any possible source they can imagine.
Okay.
And I believe around that, lots of webcasts have happened. And then by first week of April, we moved to the third stage.
Okay.
Third stage was about reimagining. It was about thinking fresh. It was telling them that when the lockdown is over, when the humanity wins over the virus, how will your new business model look like? What will be different that you will be doing? How will you assess the new needs that the customers are coming up with? And that has been the finest period of discussion in the last 4 weeks after having optimizing their cash. So this is the second stage that you are on.
Okay.
Third stage.
Okay. And how has that worked out so far?
So far, it has resulted in YourNests itself thinking of launching Project SOAR. Even for us, we had to push ourselves that we have launching YourNests for the first time in this environment. Every CEO has to think through that. He has never been in that role earlier. If he steps into a new role, how will he run that organization? And the moment we thought through that, our team came up with the idea of Project SOAR, that let's launch this particular drive to seek best deals for us to be able to invest.
Okay. But how do you think your portfolio companies have stood up to the crisis? And are you worried about some of your portfolio companies?
There is, every fund has its own uniqueness. In our case, our focus has been on the deep tech side of the businesses. Yeah. We are investing in IP-led ventures, enterprise B2B businesses. They are always very, very highly capital efficient models. And over and above, for the last months, at least 6 to 10 months, we've been talking about that there is an impending slowdown in the global economy. Hence, we sit on cash. So that helped us, our companies, to an extent. Today, most of our companies are having 12 to 24 months of cash. Yes, this particular cash of 12, 24 months is after they have re-optimized their business model on the basis of conserve and generate cash principle. We bucketed our companies in 3 categories. Luckily, none of them are in the pain category where there is a risk of them going down within the next 12 months. So there is long enough period that we have able to manage.
Okay, that's interesting. But we have been hearing about layoffs at some VC-backed companies. What kind of discussions have you had with your portfolio firms on layoffs in particular?
See, there are different mindsets out here. One mindset out here, the moment we started talking about opportunities with the founders, they said that they have enough on their plate. What is enough on their plate? They had never thought of doing do-it-yourself implementation of their SaaS model or of their product offering. They had never thought of giving a product demo online on a video or so. There are, and this is the time to create IP and think something differently and innovative. So the tech teams are definitely required for all the tech ventures that we have invested in because of these 3 reasons. And then on the business side, it's a very, very simple principle. that layoff is the last thing on the mind. First thing is freeze recruitment, freeze the increments, and then go back and communicate to the teams that if we are not able to generate revenues or if revenues are affected, then at that point in time, we will reduce salaries, maybe disproportionately for the top management and people who are earning, let's say, less than 25,000 rupees, no salary reduction. With that principle, many of them have paid salaries for the month of April as full salaries. Okay. So that's the good sign of it. And there could be some companies will be affected quite a bit strongly. In that scenario, we've just advised them, very difficult to build a team, very difficult to attract talent. If you can manage by just putting them on the bench for some time, that moment the lockdown impact is over, get them back into action.
Okay, it's interesting actually, you brought up the salary topic as well. And different VCs have been talking about different ways of supporting the portfolio companies. A couple of days back, actually, one of your peers said that shouldn't VCs support their companies through these times by recycling back recent carry and salary into their companies as loans or equity subscription? I'm sure you must have seen that tweet. What is your opinion on that?
We have in the last 3 months doubled down on most of our companies. We have supported every company in the portfolio. The result of that is that of the 7 companies that we have in the portfolio, now we have the dry powder to be able to support much more companies. This is the reason there is a birth of a program called SOAR. So it is, the value of the money is that at the time you need it, you have it. Okay. Today we are in that scenario that we have the dry powder when the country needs it the most, when the entrepreneur needs it the most.
Coming to SOAR now, which was launched recently. The funding for this program is coming from your second fund. It's part of your second fund. How is it structured?
It is very much part of the second fund. In the second fund, we already have 7 portfolio companies. And here, we are looking forward to build a larger portfolio using the SOAR platform.
All right. Okay.
And here, the timing is the best. First, this is the time in the last 6 to 8 weeks, a true entrepreneur would have challenged every element of their business model, try to challenge the minds of every employee for them to think through as to how they will re-engineer their ways to live post-COVID scenario or alongside the COVID scenario. And from that point of view, these are the people who will have the brightest of ideas. And just because most of the VC funds or the community may not be writing the checks today, we said it is the time to actually come and encourage the passionate entrepreneurs and the ones who have, normally we don't invest in a pre-revenue company. We prefer customer validation done here. We are first time saying vocally that we are going after even a minimum viable product. So if you have a MVP and there is a possibility of IP being created, there is a possibility of you going global, you are in the domain of deep tech, the next 6 months to 1 year have to be your side to be able to create a very superior product. And you will need least capital. So this is the time when the startups will be far more, you can say, they'll take that $250,000 or so, that will be the minimum investment in this program, much longer to drive that.
Okay. So early days still, but what has been the response so far on SOAR?
We are overwhelmed. Nearly 200 applications have come in the last 4 days. This is like, this is equal to a month's response coming in a 4 days period.
Okay. Any interesting companies, startups that you've seen and pitching in for it?
Oh yeah, there are many. We don't know as to how we are going to be now selecting even for the first stage, just the 10% of them for them to cross to the second stage. Let's see. Right. It's going to be a horrendous task, and many of them have come in from the referral from the startup ecosystem, including incubators, accelerators, peer VCs. Their companies on the watch list have also come in. So the quality is going to be significantly better this time.
Okay. And what kind of startups are you particularly looking at?
Particularly, the potential for them to be able to go global is one criteria.
All right.
And herein, if it is MVP, when you don't have revenue model validation, the focus is going to be far more on the team. The people who have been able to reassess how their business model will work, and who've been able to demonstrate that there is a different way of doing the same thing that we were doing until 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Okay, interesting. So coming to your second fund, you've been on the road for quite some time now raising your second fund. What is the status on it? When will we see the final close happening?
We are sitting on a significant pile of dry powder. Money is in hand. The final close, in a way, most of the commitments had come in by December 31st to us. So December 2019. So that's a comfortable position that we are in. And using that particular commitments and monies is what we've launched this particular program. So we are well funded. We have the sufficient cash. We were lucky that all the commitments came in by December 19. And hence, now good to only deploy from the second fund.
Okay, so when you're saying, all the commitments came in, so it's a 300 CR commitment that you've already received?
There is a little bit of gap in that, but yes, we are nearly there.
All right. So an official announcement will be done. Is it because of the coronavirus pandemic and that, certain things have now been stuck?
We always thought that we have the sufficient money. The programs like SOAR are more important to be launched than to talk about the final close.
All right. Okay. And then finally, I wanted to ask you, what kind of startups do you think will lead the way in a post-COVID world? Just some crystal gazing from your crystal ball gazing from your end.
Things have changed altogether from a game of valuations to the ones which are going to focus on delivering value for their customers. This is going to be a very, very different world now onwards. Okay. And the ones who actually can promise that they have reimagined the needs of the customers, they are agile enough to come forward to give this, the new way of doing business are the ones that will survive. So I'm giving a very generic answer because most of the deep tech cloud businesses, IoT businesses or SaaS businesses, they have, COVID IoT 19 is actually proving to be better than the CIOs of the large company in driving the digital strategies of corporations worldwide. So yes, digital is the core theme. So around with the digital theme, the underlying factors are going to be more important.
Okay. I also wanted your quick thoughts on exits. So do you think exits will be pushed back in this kind of a scenario?
They have been. Anybody who was discussing with the companies for M&A or acquisition, or they were ready to deliver a check, have postponed and taken a pause for 2, 3, 4 months. But doesn't mean that the NDAs are not being signed for new discussions, or even if the pause is there, the companies are deeply engaging and far more engaging because it is the same company that would have become part of them earlier, who's supporting them to create technologies at this point in time. So from a cash flow point of view, yes, each one of us will see delayed cash, and carry is only a dream that the VCs or early stage VCs of us are looking at. So at this point in time, yes, there is a delay, but it's a very, very good pause. Much more sensible acquisitions will happen going forward.
Okay, so were there some exit talks on YourNests in a part as well from some of its portfolio companies also?
Yes, we have 3 to 4 discussions going on. And those discussions are important discussions. There is a pause in some. There is a deeper engagement that is happening in some. But those are the important. That gives us us as a confidence. So in the first fund, that after seeing that the people who are going to be acquiring our companies are engaging and re-engaging with us, that Project SOAR took birth.
Okay.
Every element has to be in place for us to be able to take an initiative as bold as SOAR at a point like this.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you, Mr. Goyal, for your thoughts. It was great talking with you.
Super. Thanks for having me again.
Cool. And thank you all for listening. That's all we have in this edition of our VCCircle podcast. Take care and stay safe.